pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you very much, Troy. And I'll ask for an approval of the minutes from our May 16th meeting. Moved by Joe, seconded by Rhett. Any changes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Public comments. No one has signed up to speak. Kevin, you're up for a local labor monitoring report.
All right, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, so I have the May monthly report here covering our visits between May 1st and May 31st. During this period, we made 78 monthly site visits. We made 6 follow-up visits during this period. We checked the residency of 742 workers. Let's see, we had 16 issues of non-compliance, 13 of which were no proof of residence. That was over 5 jobs, 3 out of area, over 1 job. Current compliance for USRE Manitow was 73.4%. As of May 31st, 2023, all monitored sites were in compliance at the time of our inspection, and there were 0 new COMIDA signs delivered during this period.
Any questions for Kevin? Thank you for joining the governance committee meeting
You're welcome.
last week. That was extremely helpful.
Anytime needed, obviously, we'll share our opinions, and any other questions you have, obviously, let us know.
That was great. Appreciate it.
Take you up on that again.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Anytime. Have a good rest of your day.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks,
Thank you,
Kevin.
Kevin. Thanks,
Chair,
Kevin.
before we move on, just real quick, does, on Manitow, do we know when that is slated to open? Is there? do you know?
That's a good-
We haven't received an update in recent weeks from Amazon, but originally they were targeting Prime Day 2023, which is in the middle of July. But last I heard, they were pushing that into August or September.
Okay.
And the goal is, I think, to have a ribbon cutting in perhaps October. We
Okay.
can get a confirmation though.
That'd be great,
Okay.
but we're close.
We're close.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Just one follow, how are they doing in terms of their hiring? Do we have any sense that they were
In terms of their what?
hiring?
Oh, hiring?
They have partnered with the Department of Labor and with Rochester Works to run a number of hiring events. And I understand that they have a number of individuals that have either been hired or in the process of hiring, but I'll get an update from our contacts at Amazon to
Thank you.
confirm. I did learn at the Cooperstown conference when we talking to our other IDA colleagues from elsewhere in the state that the Onondaga County facility overshot their employment numbers by a significant margin. So it was originally projected to have, I think, approximately 1,000 employees, and it was up to 12 or 1,300 employees at whatever point this in the last couple of months. So I'll try to get an update from Amazon, and I would expect them to have a lot of need there. So hopefully they'll be able to meet their numbers.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, Brian LaFountain with our local labor exemptions report.
Good afternoon, thank you.
Good afternoon.
Okay, so today I am delivering a report for one exemption that we processed in the month of May. This was at the Li-Cycle North American Hub, and this was an exemption related to the provision and installation of the lightning protection. It's going to start out with building 510. Then as other buildings are completed, they're going to provide and install the lightning protection on other buildings going forward. There was no company local that was qualified to do this, and we gave an exemption to Morse Collins, and they are located in Auburn, New York.
Okay, questions for Brian? I like your shirt.
Oh, thank you.
We're still advertising PGA in Rochester.
We're going to wear these a lot easier.
That's right.
So, I have one question.
Troy?
So Brian, you're gonna start to see an increase of applications for waivers at Li-Cycle? Is that trending?
Yeah, we just, we have 5 or 6 that are in the works right now. Most of them are related to lack of available resources at local union halls and trying to reach out to other locals or utilizing local members that don't reside in the local COMIDA local labor area. Tis the season.
Brian, just a real quick question on this one, the lightning protection. Was there no one certified from the manufacturer, or was there, is this a skill issue? Or, can just a little bit more color on?
I think it's similar to the Henderson Johnson Gypcrete situation. We have
Okay.
folks here who do it on a smaller level, but on a larger commercial, they didn't have the expertise to do it in this situation.
So
There's just none
it's-
around.
Okay,
There's two of them in Auburn. We've used one. We issued an exemption a number of years ago for another company in, also in Auburn, which is odd, but not locally.
thanks.
Anything else?
That's it. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay, you too. Greg, financial report. Nice to see you.
Nice to be seen.
We talk about you all the time.
Perfect.
We just don't see you.
All good. What a way to start.
Good start.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Financials through May 31st, 2023. Cash and cash equivalents really just represents, our unrestricted cash outside of our workforce development funds, down about $1 million compared to where we were in December. Mainly that's due to we're running at a little bit of a deficit, expenses in excess of our fee revenue, in addition to paying some of our accruals at the end of last year. Our restricted cash represents our workforce development funds, again, about 4.5 of that is unspent. Overall, we've committed $5.178 million based on our fee revenue and that allocation. We have committed about $2.7 million against that 5.1 based on programs that have been approved against it. We have about a little more than 2.4 million that for programs that are potentially available based on where what we've committed so far. Of the combined cash accounts, which includes our restricted cash, our workforce development fund, we have been diligent in respect to taking those funds, getting them out of non-interest bearing accounts. Approximately of that, that's about $14 million. Over $13 million are in interest bearing accounts. That generated about $22,000 of interest in the month of May,
Sure.
about $54,000 over the past 3 months.
Any idea what that rate is that we're getting?
So we were about 2% for the past couple months. I just spoke with M&T yesterday. They have increased that to 3%.
Yeah.
Again, money market accounts.
ESL's paying 5.
Yeah.
Again, so in terms of governmental entities, we are limited based on a collateralized deposit rule. ESL cannot pay us, no other bank can pay us more than what we're doing. ESL does not, cannot provide banking and assistance to any governmental institution,
So,
because they're a credit union.
yeah, so, forgive the question, but, so, let's say that their standard, any of us walk in there and say, okay, we have $10 million. Okay, anybody that goes in there and pay above $10 million, they pay 5 points on it.
Yeah.
So, why would that
That's
make-
available for private corporations and things like that, governmental entities based on the structure, governmental municipal law, GMLA, because the way our deposits are basically collateralized, it doesn't allow us to get that additional interest that other private organizations are allowed to have. 100% of our deposits, okay, are collateralized, which means that, okay, because we have that extra insurance or coverage, it minimizes the amount of interest we can earn.
There's a
Okay.
thing called GASB that impacts
It's
government
just-
finances.
It's just different for governmental entities, which we fall under, and private institutions. So, we are looking again at doing more than what we have,
Yeah.
You know, we're gonna look at, we're gathering some information from financial institutions currently, and we're gonna, you know, hopefully set up a finance committee meeting here in the next, hopefully 2 to 3 weeks, about 4 weeks, and present our recommendations to that committee.
Yeah, and the reason I ask is 200 basis points on that kind of money, that's
Big number.
a
Yeah.
big number. And it
Yeah.
could offset, you know, as we head into recession, it could offset some of the fees that we normally would get. It would, I mean, it would offset a lot of that. Not a lot of it, but
And again,
a good portion of it.
So where you earn higher interest rates, you also pay fees. You know, we have no banking fees, we have no transaction fees, none of that.
Yeah.
So again, the way that we have to operate under our rules are a little bit different than traditional private entities.
Yeah. Well, maybe I mean, it'll take too much time now, but we should talk. I'll give you my number, give me a call, and I'll share with you what I've seen, because it's the same thing, no fees, no nothing, it's a
yeah.
fixed number.
Yeah, I talk
Like,
to
it's not a
ESL.
special deal, it's just,
Yeah.
you know,
ESI, I mean, you know, that particular, you know, credit unions cannot bank governmental entities. They don't have the ability to do that. They don't
so
have
they
the
don't have the ability to do it at all.
collateralized deposits. No, they don't, they don't do that.
Wow.
You know, so I had that
Okay.
conversation with them. And whether it was them or another traditional bank, they all have rules because our deposits are collateralized and
Right, right.
are basically 100%, you know, guaranteed.
Yeah.
The limit on the amount of interest they would pay us.
I got you.
Okay, and again,
Yeah.
based on our investment and deposit policy, there's only a handful of things
Yeah.
that we can, you know, invest into.
Sure.
Right? So we're very, very
I
limited,
understand.
right?
How I look at it is, if prime is at 7, for example.
Yeah.
I should be able to get, on a fixed secured asset,
Yeah.
I should be able to get 200 basis points below prime.
Yeah.
At where it is, right? So, and, like, when prime was at, you know, 1,
Yeah.
you know, we were getting 0, but,
Yeah.
you know, so that's how I look at it.
Yeah, you just can't have it both ways, right? You can't have 100% of your deposits collateralized and get the 5%. Right, that's the way I think about it. Like,
Nice way of thinking
Right, you
about
can't
it.
have both. You can't be 100% secured and get 5%. It's like, hey, you could, you know, so that's why, you know,
Yeah.
that works that way.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm confused. We've started this conversation with T-bills and CDs, were two of our umbrellas of investment, correct? Right? Was that not my past conversation, was T-bills and CDs? Just moved substantial amount of money, still can't lose money, and at 5.3%. Number one, I'm glad we don't see fees if we're investing in one entity this amount of money. Shame on them if we did pay fees, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Number two, diversification. And I just want to better understand, because I just did a T-bill for 5.3, and I just did a 3-month, a 6-month, a 9-month, and a 12-month CD at 5.3. I got to understand the restriction better
That's why.
at 2,
but
because
I-
we're missing
And that's
3.
why, that's why I was gonna have him call me, so I could, because I want an education, because I don't understand it, and we need
Because
to.
it's still T-bills, like we
You guys
talked.
gotta, I mean, do you understand that this is a government entity and there's rules associated with government entities?
Well, I wanna
Yeah,
understand
so-
those rules.
So you're gonna have to take some accounting courses and understand the rules of GASB. GASB put things in place so that we're not cavalier or frivolous in how we make investments.
Yeah.
There was a money, a CFO in Orange County back in 1985. He took, excuse me,
I get it.
excuse me, he took all the money that was in their accounts and put them in junk bonds. He made that municipality go bankrupt. So GASB and different rules are in place that's basically manifested and overseen by the comptroller's office, that we do certain things to make sure that we don't get in that position.
Those are all government entities, right?
Yeah,
All-
this,
all of them.
this is a government entity right here. We're
No,
government.
I understand we
Yeah.
are, but that holds true for all government entities?
Absolutely.
Because
Yes.
one of my friends is a finance director in one of the towns, and she's getting between 4.55 and 4.62 right now.
So,
That's a
so-
government
so let me
entity?
just jump in. We can do T-bills. Like, we can do
That
T-bills.
was gonna be my question. T-bills are
So-
Guys,
between
so-
4.5 and
We
5.
can do T-bills. the conversation a few months ago, you know, was, you know, and I think, Troy, you brought up this point, that you wanted us to go out and get information from banks and investment people and all that stuff. Well, we haven't gotten great response from that. I would tell you that our next step would be, to the finance committee, consider recommending to ladder some T-bills. That is where we are at today. So it's not that we're not going to do that. We got a little bit off track because we were gonna go maybe a different route. Well, it again, gets us back to what our original thought was, is that we're going to do what we can based on what our investment and deposit policy is. We just have a little bit of a transition period here. We're going to most likely get into, you know, some sort of T-bill program, you know, in the next probably couple weeks. It's just, so that, again, there's a little bit of transition, but we're doing something in the interim. We're not saying we're not doing that, but again, that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, and I guess I look at time, every day that goes
For
by,
sure.
we're not doing that, we're losing dough.
Yeah.
And I know, again, I don't have a crystal ball, but if I'm a bet man, we're gonna be in a recession by the end of the year. And I think by sometime in mid-24, they're gonna start easing off rates. So these rates we're getting now, I don't think we're gonna be seeing them long-term. So it'd be nice to take advantage of them while we can.
Yeah.
So, and I would like to understand what those rules are, so if there's something that you can send me so that, you know, at least I can,
Do
you
we
know.
have to go out to bid for the T-bills? No,
No.
get them from M&T.
And they're changing right now. I mean, it's a game to be played.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good point.
But
Yeah,
to
every day you
your
can-
point,
so-
Norm,
so-
what's confusing for,
So can you send
so
that?
how can we not allow a municipality, a government
you.
agency to reap a benefit instead of a bank right now that's taking our 2% interest rate and getting 8%? They're getting 6% on using the money. That's where I'm confused, and I would rather better understand.
I think it has to be, you know, an overall, you know, you're getting 5.3 from ESNL, I'm getting 5.5. So,
Whoops.
yeah, so we have to have a strategy of what we're gonna do, laid out based on good, sound principles.
And what we can
On what
do.
we can do.
Right.
And then, you know, we can say what a town is getting or whatever. Sometimes things happen in these towns that we don't wanna, you know, say that we wanna do. Because I read about a town person just took a lot of money and left the town in a bad way. I'm not saying it was your town, but what I'm saying is that we need to, you know, I understand what you're saying, Joe, but we need, whatever we do, we have to have it in a structure that's gonna meet the actual best practice of this organization.
Well, she's gonna send me what the laws are,
Yeah,
this
we'll
way
have a
that,
policy
this way
and-
that I can understand it,
Yeah.
and
Send
then,
you guys
when I
the
ask
guidelines.
questions, I know what I'm talking about.
And
And
we
yeah.
can set up the finance
Finance
committee
committee,
meeting
yeah.
to really
So with
drill
those-
down on that.
But,
Rachel,
you
could
know,
I be
to,
included on that email?
to go along with what I had asked, is a town, a municipality, do they have to follow the same rules as this COMIDA board? It's a government entity,
It's a
I'm assuming
public-
so.
public
I know the
entity.
rules that we have to follow. I'm not certain about
Are they
every
di-
single town.
Same.
Same, right? Or-
I'm saying same as Greg. I can't opine on what the municipalities have to follow.
As a board member, it's tough to be diligent and have rules of being diligent. That's where I'm struggling
Yeah,
right
yeah,
now,
but-
because I don't wanna have somebody, an entity, come to us and say, why didn't you address this if this is what's happening? I think just to hear it being said is one thing, to see it is what, I wanna be diligent.
Right.
I wanna be diligent to make sure that, that we did the right thing,
Yeah.
Norm.
And Rachel should circulate that to all of us, so that we can all read through it and educate ourselves, so we understand. Because every nickel that we waste is money that we could be using somewhere else. You know, when these programs come to us, I mean, when you're leaving money on the table, we could be putting that money to use.
Especially this year
So-
with
Right.
the fee income situation.
Yeah.
But-
I completely agree.
Joe,
And
Joe,
I
it's
think
the
what
right
we'll
question.
share with the board is our investment policy, which you all have seen, and we'll share that. And if there's maybe any GASB guidance that you want to take a look at, to Norm's point, it's, you know,
It's you know, if you're an accountant, you'll love that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, but there's all these different rules that you have to
Right.
comply with.
Right.
Now, but to answer your question, Rhett, a town and an authority, they're government entities, but they're separate entities. And because I just took that amazing class that you had me take last week. There are different rules that are associated with authorities in a town.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you want to get, you just can't say, all right, that's government, that's government. They're not the same. So you have to dig down deep and look at it from a broad side-by-side comparison, and then make the determination. Towns and authorities are different.
Rachel, the document, I think that would be more, is the local, is the comptroller's guide,
Yep.
local government management guide for investing public funds.
I
That's
think
what-
you'll really
that'll-
enjoy that.
That'll be something that you, again, it's a good read, it's very,
No, great, I mean, you know,
Right.
I'm glad we're considering T-bills, I mean, that seems, but
yeah.
it'd be good to educate ourselves, and as Joe mentions, I think, to move quickly. Just one quick question, so, in the restricted cash, we have 2.4 million that's unaccounted for, that, for the workforce development. Why do we keep that in restricted cash, as opposed to the general?
Again, it's more of a, we're just setting it aside, it's not, it's generally still in the same accounts.
Okay,
Okay, it's more of a classification, an accounting treatment of it, it's restricted for the use for those, for that program, right, we set it aside, but it's not restricted in the sense that we're,
it's not committed.
yes.
No, but we're holding those funds available.
Yeah, for sure.
For those
We're still-
commitments, the
yes.
2.4.
Yes, we just, right, that's the amount, the 4.5 is the amount that we haven't spent yet, right, that's real cash that we haven't spent out of that 5.1, but we've committed 2.7, just hasn't been spent.
Okay,
We have
2.7,
2.4 more that we can commit to the overall program that hasn't been committed as of yet, as of today.
Yeah. And I mentioned at ESL rate too, just because somebody just asked me and they went in and got it. I'm not saying that's what I got, I'm just saying it's what somebody that I know
Yeah.
went in, you know, with a pretty large sum of money, and that's what they gave them right off the street. They had no relationship with them, no nothing. So I figured, I mean, and they're usually fairly competitive. I know they don't pay taxes, so it's offset, but
So
they're
it's-
fairly competitive.
You're right, yes, they're very, very competitive.
Well, they cheat. They don't have to pay taxes.
But I went to one credit union, and they said we'll give you 3.75 ES&L. Sit down,
Yeah, ESL's great. They're great.
5.5, easy.
Federal credit union guys that work there, I tease them and tell them they cheat because they don't have to pay
Yeah,
taxes.
yeah, five, easy 5.5.
Right.
And that was as of Saturday morning.
Okay, I think we've vetted that issue pretty well,
We'll
pretty
be
thoroughly.
notifying everyone when a
The next
finance
finance,
committee
yeah.
meeting
Okay.
is scheduled, and we haven't forgot about this conversation, and we are moving forward in earnest to follow through on the discussion that took place months ago and at the most recent finance committee.
Okay, thank you. Greg, anything else? How are you feeling about what was budgeted versus where we are?
Yeah, I think as you can see, our fee income revenue from projects is down.
Down,
You know,
right.
but we kind of anticipated that.
Mhm.
Of the 258,000 that we have, collected so far this year, 183,000 of that was for projects that were approved in 2022.
Yep,
And the remaining, amount were for projects that were approved in 2023 and closed in 2023. So of the majority of that fee revenue that we've earned this year is mostly from 22 projects that have closed. But again, even, you look at our pipeline of projects, it's soft.
it
right?
is.
It is,
yeah.
it's soft, and again, we anticipated certainly being,
Down,
down
Right.
from where we have historically been in the past couple of years. Now, I think we're trending to be down, more than what we, if we look at, the fee revenue we generated, it's always been around $2 million, give or take, right? We're gonna be down quite a bit, compared to that. So, we budgeted about a $1.2 million deficit. I think that may be a little bit bigger, give or take, when some of these, the big workforce development, funds really come in. I do feel that, we start to see a little bit, we're gonna spend a little bit more of that over the next 6, 8, 12 months. You know, that 5.1 is gonna kinda get out into the community. But I don't see the project pipeline there. So that 1.2 may grow. You know, lucky for us is that, again, our balance sheet, our statement of financial position is very strong. I think we've anticipated that, whether it's exactly, you know, that number that we budgeted for. You know, if I had to guess right now, I would say the deficit's gonna be a little bit bigger than what we had initially budgeted for, probably about almost 8 months ago. Based on really just the pipeline of the projects.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Greg.
All right, the first project on our agenda is home leasing. And Anna, would you like to kick it off for us?
Thank you, Ann. Hi, Brett. Home Leasing LLC proposes to purchase and renovate 4 buildings on the corner of Main Street and North Clinton Avenue in the city of Rochester. The ground floor will be commercial space with approximately 11 residential apartment units on the upper floors. All apartments will serve middle-income households who earn 80% or less of area median income. This project is part of the Downtown Revitalization Initiative and will transform the corner of Main Street and North Clinton Avenue and will be consistent with the East Main Street Downtown Historic District. At the request of the City of Rochester, the applicant is seeking approval of a shelter rent real property tax abatement agreement for both the residential and the commercial space. Tenants have not been identified yet, but the applicant expects that these spaces will generate new local job opportunities for small businesses. The cost-benefit ratio is 1:1.
Thank you. And for this project, we have Brad. Welcome, Brad. Nice to see you again. And Adam Driscoll and Megan Hubert.
Lindsay Allen is replacing.
And Lindsay Allen. Okay. Would you like to elaborate?
Yeah, sure, I'll just
How
say-
did you end up, honing in on this particular building and the projects involved?
I've been looking at this building, trying to get something to happen here, as many have for about 25 years. I moved to Rochester in '97 and worked in the Alliance building and walked out the front door every day looking at this mess that's on the corner of Main and Clinton. So it's really interesting after all these years to be part of the team who's going to finally take care of this issue. And I got to credit my colleague Adam Driscoll, because he solved the problem that no one else has solved in the last 25 years, which is he got site control from the owners of these buildings, and that was the hard task.
So they are no longer the owners of the
We
building?
own 2 of the buildings. We closed on the 2 that are not on the corner, the one on North Clinton and one on Main, and we have a purchase contract for the other 2 that are right on the corner.
Great.
Yeah. So, the goal here, the primary goal, I'll make no qualms about, is just to simply deal with this problem that this community's been faced with, having these derelict buildings in the middle of our downtown forever. But we're accomplishing 3 other important goals, right? So, first, really fulfilling the wishes of the historic district that's been established here. Second, creating additional affordable housing in an income range that's actually quite hard to create, that we're proud of being able to deliver here. And then third, creating affordable, high-quality retail opportunities. We're going to work really hard to work with local businesses and others to find the right tenants to bring vitality to this corner. So that's our overall goal. And you already mentioned we have the support of the city of Rochester. So happy to take any questions.
The commercial tenants will have affordable rates, and you mentioned retail. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so I'll say commercial tenants, right? First floor uses. My guess is we'll get a combination of food and service uses, right? That's the most likely outcome.
Not
We
retail,
don't
not
have any tenants. There's no way
clothing or anything like that.
tenants going to sign up to
Yeah.
occupy a year and a half from now. The retail market is quite soft. We've done a project downtown Union Square, which is on Union Street between East and Broad. And what we found there is if you set rates affordably and you have patience, right, you can have success. And we've got a deli that's about to open, and then the Hickey Freeman outlet opened on the south end of it, which was, I think, a neat feat.
Where is that?
On the corner of Broad and Union, you can now buy a Hickey Freeman suit. Well, not a Hickey Freeman suit, a Rochester. Correct myself. But
Is it
you-
still open?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So
Walked
that'll
past
be
it the
there.
other day.
Good to note.
Yeah.
All right.
So what would it be called? It wouldn't be called a Hickey Freeman suit anymore? What would it
Well,
be?
Hickey Freeman, this is another project that you guys helped us, help
Yeah.
support us. So Hickey Freeman, which I still call it Hickey Freeman, had the license to manufacture those suits here.
Right.
But the owner of that license went a different direction, and they're now manufacturing their suits in Mexico,
Right.
going for a lower cost market, from what I understand. So the suits that are made here are being made for other companies, Hart Schaefer Marks, Brooks Brothers, groups like that, and then they have their own brand that's called Rochester Tailored Clothing, I think.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I was okay. Yeah. So you're gonna be able to get Hickey Freeman suits now at Walmart and Targets? Is that what you're saying?
There'll be a lower price. I will not be getting any more. I bought my last Hickey Freeman suits, I suspect, last month at the last sale here. We tend to buy what we make here in Rochester.
Brett, on your mechanical system, I know that there's some ground source heat pumps systems going on there. Will you be using that technology?
We
or-
will not, we don't have any land.
Okay.
We'll be using air source heat pumps. These will
Okay.
be very highly efficient. I forget the standard that we're achieving for our green building standards, but it's well above code, energy standard, all electric. We're doing ground source at the Taylor Square Hickey Freeman project. But there's zero land here.
No.
Patrick Dutton, who's developing the adjoining properties, has created or is in the process of creating is a geothermal field that we shared among other properties, but we can't access
But
that.
I thought, because I know you was doing that, in such close proximity, that you'd be able to tie into that.
We didn't, I don't know if it's technically possible that we could have, but, it would have been challenging, I suspect. But we will be at a very high standard of green building here.
But the 80%, the AMI you're using, is that for the county or the city?
That's for the MSA, like all of the affordable housing projects, it's, AMI goes based on the region.
Okay, so that would be the county number?
It's the number used for regulating affordable housing in the city is the same as what they use in the county, as the
Okay.
same as the surrounding counties.
It's a metropolitan statistical area, it's a 5-county
Okay.
area.
Brett, with the projected jobs creation, one full-time, what's that gonna be referencing, one full-time?
The only jobs that we're talking about here is our property management jobs, but there's going to be additional jobs at the retail. But this is principally, affordable housing project. We don't have any control of the owners of the retail. So that's about the property management piece.
So only one full-time employee for 4 buildings?
Yeah, it's only 11 units.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But there will be retail tenants.
The retail tenants will have jobs, but, I don't know if it's gonna be one person sitting at a counter or, 20 people serving people food. It's impossible to predict. My guess is it'll be a mix of things.
Just
And I
another
don't know if it's
project
gonna
we're
be-
seeing here with an incentivization of 64% is pretty intense, again, to understand, as we saw at Hickey Freeman, whether
Yeah.
it changes it.
Yeah,
It's a little concerning, but, one full-time employee.
To me, the principal goal of this project is to solve the problem of this crater that we have in the middle of our downtown that's been
It's nice, sir.
bringing the whole place down. All 3 other corners have been really taken care of well, between Sibley, Midtown, and Andy Delina's Metropolitan. Here, this one still sits.
I think it's terrific that we're finally attacking it. It has been an eyesore ever since I came to Rochester back in the mid-90s.
Yeah, we have the same story, exactly.
It's awful.
Yeah, it's really bad shape.
Okay.
Which explains its cost.
All right, any other questions? All right, we had a public hearing on June 20. Were there any comments from that? All right, I'll ask you our local labor questions. Are you aware of our local labor policy?
Yes,
Do you anticipate any local labor exemptions at this time?
no, we don't.
And are you aware that any exemptions need to be requested 45 days in advance?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. The seeker process is complete, so now I'll ask for a motion for inducement and final resolution approving a custom shelter rent real property tax abatement.
I'll motion it.
Moved by Joe,
Second.
seconded by Norm. Any other comments, questions? I'll take a roll call vote. Jay?
Yes.
Norm?
Yes.
Troy?
Okay.
Rhett?
Yay.
Lisa? Is absent. Joe?
Yes.
And Ann is a yay. So, motion carries.
Hey, thank you. We look
Congratulations.
forward to
Good
starting.
luck with the project.
Good luck.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
When are you planning to break ground?
Fall,
you've still got it.
October, something like that, October, November.
Okay.
Well, this, this is a part of that whole puzzle for that corridor.
Yeah.
The first thing happened when Gaddis put together the package for the old Knights, Corey's building, getting parking violations, social security there on Main Street. That was the start. I think there's more to come.
Oh, yeah, totally,
Really
absolutely.
appreciate
The
it.
TRI program really was the key that unlocked this. We wouldn't have been able to do this without the TRI program.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we now have several project modifications. 125 Howell Street. Anna?
125 Howell Street LLC is constructing 5 market rate 4-story townhome rental units. Extensions of the sales tax exemptions were given in 2020 and 2021. The applicant is now seeking an extension of the sales tax exemption through December 31st, 2025 because of price escalations and the pandemic.
Okay. And we don't have anyone representing the modification, so any questions? All right, I'll ask for a motion to approve an extension of the sales tax exemption through December 31, 2025. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Jay, seconded by Rhett. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next modification is I Square LLC.
I-Square LLC is a mixed-use town center development in the town of Irondequoit. The project was originally approved in March 2013 for a custom real property tax abatement, mortgage recording tax, and sales tax exemptions. This ongoing project received extensions of the sales tax exemption benefit through June 30th of 2023. This request is for another extension through December 31st, 2024, due to a longer than anticipated construction period. The project is expected to be completed in 2024.
Refresh my memory, these were, so it was an expandable project, so they're putting in multiple buildings.
Yes.
And we gave the first award in 2013.
Mhm.
So,
It's been a long construction period, and then in 2019 timeframe, they added more parcels to the project as well, so it became even larger. And that addition required a significant amount of demolition of existing structures
I
and
see.
some rezoning as well.
Mhm.
So I think that between the project on its own and then you layer on the pandemic, I think it's just really slowed it down.
but they are making progress.
They are making progress.
Jay, what's the cost of impact or construction increases because of the pandemic? What are you looking, 25%, 20%, 15%?
It's really tough, but I would, to give you a precise number, but I would say anywhere on the order of 15 to 50%, really.
50?
Yeah, what's happening is you're just getting fewer and fewer bidders. So some of the bids are going up. Like, we've got a number of projects where you get one bid. Someone basically throwing a number saying, if I get it, I'll figure it out. But, so I would say that's the upper end when you're just receiving fewer bids. But on average, I would say versus where we were before, 15 to 30% is somewhere in that range.
I think it's a loaded question because there are certain things that you buy in the construction world that I've seen flatten out back to pre-pandemic rates, and I think some of them are still not even close and still going up. And clearly labor has gone up, and that has not coming down, and I don't think it's gonna come down. So I think that's a moving target, but yeah.
Because I think what we're seeing here with these extensions is a constant theme of pandemic costs that are impacting the projects and,
Yeah.
and raising the price.
I think that's part of it, Norm. I think some of these, like particularly, and I don't know, this is conjecture on my part, but when you look at I-Square, when you look at the increase in construction costs, increase in interest rates, I think the financial viability of some of the projects is impacted, so they might have to change usage and.
Different investors that come and go are involved, switching.
Well, if it wasn't an essential project and it didn't involve a hospital or a nursing home or any kind of care, those projects you weren't allowed to congregate in groups. You were forced to shut the job down, and that's what I think is also part of your delay why build a restaurant right now if we can't put people in it? I mean,
That's a great point.
Okay, all right.
Okay, any other questions on that? All right, I'll ask for a motion to approve an extension of the sales tax exemption through December 31, 2024. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Jay, seconded by Troy. Any other comments, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. J.D. and Sons, Inc., extension on
JD and Sons, Inc., a wholesale seafood processing company, is constructing a new 28,000 square foot building in the town of Chili. The project was originally approved in April 2022. The applicant is now seeking an extension of the sales tax exemption through December 31st, 2023, as more time is needed to complete the project.
Any questions on that? All right, I'll ask for a motion to approve an extension of the sales tax exemption through December 31, 2023.
So motion.
Moved by Joe, seconded by Brett. Any other comments, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Thank you. Now, the most popular part of the agenda.
How about that?
Jay is going to give us an update on our local labor policies and what transpired at the recent governance committee.
Thanks, Trevor. We had a meeting of the governance committee last week, and we had a very spirited conversation, and I thought there were some really good ideas presented, and we were actually able to take a vote on modifying our policies as it relates to specialty labor and warranties. The whole spirit of these changes was to get more tangible information when a warranty comes in or when somebody requests an exemption for specialty, to be able to be specific about the certification. Or if it is a warranty issue, is it the fact that the company needs to have a certain certification from the manufacturer? And if it is, what is that? The whole idea of this is to allow our local contractors and our local labor community to have sufficient notice to be able to get those certifications. Or if it is a certification like a welding, to be able to say, yes, we have those people available. So the changes were voted on by the governance committee. I think they're outlined in everybody's package, and we would like to submit them to the board for full approval and adoption.
Okay, thank you. So
Robin,
they were
anything?
passed by the committee, so
Yes.
up to the full board. Any
So with that,
questions
I'll
for
entertain
Jay?
any questions. I think everybody was at the governance meeting.
Not so much a question,
let's
just to
start
add
all
on
over
that
again.
it's something that we could always work on.
Yes.
And we're just trying to, and thank you
100%.
for all your time and efforts,
Well, I
Jay.
appreciate all the input, and the governance committee has a lot on its plate, so it's actually nice to be able to at least forward some changes, and I
Absolutely.
think the board can expect several more coming in the next few months.
We appreciate your leadership over all of that and patience. You're diligent. Don't give up.
Norman, we get a breather for a month, he says the next couple of months.
You did a good
more
job.
coming.
You did a good job with that, Jay. I
Well,
gotta tell
thank
you.
you.
But through the board training, you don't have to meet every month.
We've got a lot, so the backlog keeps increasing. I'd like to get a few of the things implemented, and it's a little bit like what Joe mentioned in terms of the, we're looking at for finance. I'd like to get them implemented so we can, for instance, what Brian presented today, would like to know precisely what.
It makes sense.
Yeah. So with that,
Okay.
we'll present it to the board for approval.
Thank you, Jay. So I'll ask for a motion to adopt the changes to the local labor policy as presented and recommended by the governance committee.
I'll
So
motion.
moved.
Moved by Joe.
Second.
Seconded by Norm. Any other comments, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Executive Director discussion items. Anna.
Thank you, Ann. First, I'm pleased to introduce in just a minute Tyrone Reeves, the president of YAMTEP, the Young Adult Manufacturing Training Employment Program. Last April, you may recall that this board approved a contract with YAMTEP. It was the first contract through our workforce development program. YAMTEP is a very successful workforce development program in serving Greater Rochester and Monroe County in partnership with many other stakeholders, as you'll see outlined on page 71 in your packet. Tyrone is in fact expanding the program as it is very successful. One of the most notable successful characteristics of the program is that YAMTEP provides transportation to all of the participating young adults who, adults of all ages, in fact, ranging from 19 to 60 years old. YAMTEP provides training in CNC, forklift certifications, manufacturing fundamentals, blueprint training, and in fact, YAMTEP is going to be looking to expand its scope to focus on construction careers as well, with other community partners. There's a 75% job placement rate through this program. YAMTEP works very closely with the RMAPI stakeholder partners. The bottom line of this organization is focusing on anti-poverty in workforce development. And with that, I would love to invite Tyrone Reeves up to the podium to talk a little bit more about the look back over the last year since April of last year when we approved our first contract, and talk about a look forward to plans for the proposed $520,000 contract through our workforce development fund. Welcome, Tyrone.
Well, thank you.
Hi,
Good-
Tyrone.
It's good to see you all again.
Nice to see you
It's good to
again.
see you too, Tom.
This is On To Win. Next year, she'll be here in front of you presenting. She actually does a lot of our grant writing, and so she'll start doing a lot of the day-to-day things as well. But today, I'm here to say thank you, first of all. The funding you gave us last year was much needed and put to great use. Our numbers have been increasing. Everyone in our region is asking to partner with us. We partner with, you name it. We went off and said, I'm kind of tired of us working in silos, and I'm tired of getting in meetings and everyone saying, we really need to work together, so let's work together, and it not happening. So what I did was, I used the old model. I tricked everyone. I just started working with everyone and not saying a word. If you notice, you don't hear advertisements on YAMTEP. You don't really see a lot of us in publicity. So we just started working with Center for Youth Services and said, based off of our funding, we get funding from COMIDA, we get funding from the City of Rochester, Ralph C. Wilson Foundation, ESL Foundation. And we said, you know what, instead of taxing the community and asking someone to give you $1 zillion all one organization, we're just gonna go to every organization and take a smaller chunk and say, hey, let our performance speak for itself. But what that allows us to do is not be competitive with all the other programs out there. You know, we partner with Rochester Works. So when they put a person in our program, they don't necessarily have to pay us. We partner with Center for Youth Services, or we partner with Monroe County. And when you do those things, think about it. It takes that competitiveness out of it in that area where people say, oh, no, I need my money for me. And if I work with you and we give you money, we have less. We took an opposite approach and said, we're going to get funding from these organizations so the people coming to us, they don't have to pay. And if you place someone in from your organization, it doesn't come out of your budget. It's out of ours. Oh my God, just the ability of doing that has allowed us to work with everyone from a non-competitive standpoint. And that in itself has been fantastic, which you guys have really contributed to that. Also, your funding allowed us to do something that no one's doing. Our young population. We don't advertise our adults, so we kind of routinely get between 150 and 250 adults coming into Yamped Up for training just through word of mouth. But last year what we did was we started going through the high schools, all of them. We turned away almost 200 high school students from the city schools and the county schools who literally the students said, we have no interest in going to college. We want to get into a trade. And so what I did was we started with RCSD because they're the most difficult to get into, and people don't realize, yeah, they have a superintendent, but all these schools have all these individual principals and they're all different. So we said, guess what? We're just going to attack each school individually. We're going to go and talk with each and every principal and say, hey, listen, can we get you to let us sit with any of those students who've already decided not to go to college? We'll just come present. And if they're interested, they can come into our training. And here's the beauty. We started working with those schools in October, but in March, we literally take our vehicles, go to the school, pick the students up, bring them into our Yamped Up facilities for training. And we pay them for the second half of their school day. We work with the schools to put all their free periods in the second half of the day. We work with their parents to make sure their parents are okay with this. And we work with the technology program to say, okay, when they come here, they can get credit for technology, right? And for me, this is where we say, we don't always need a PhD. PhDs are wonderful, but some things we can fifth grade our way out of it, right? So what we did was working with those schools in those time periods. You know, most of the high schools, their day is over at around 2 o'clock. So we come pick them up right at lunch at 12:30. So at every case, their potential of missing school is one class, of which we work with the school to get that technology class moved into the second half of the day. So the students literally don't miss any school. And we get to bring them in our facility, work with them for about 3 hours a day. We pay them. And please understand, we say this to all of our organizations that support us with funding, because everyone has a different philosophy on certain things. Our goal when we bring those students in is not to get them in a job. Our first priority is get them graduated. And once they graduate, we try to give those participants a choice. Your choice now becomes, you can get a job and we can put you in that. You can go in the military, or you can go into junior college, which we have an excellent relationship with MCC. Anyone that wants to go into college, MCC will come in upon graduation and enroll them into a program in that shorter period of time so they can start in September. Right? And these are the things when I say you don't always need a PhD. Some things we just have common sense. Right? We literally turned away almost 200 kids because of infrastructure. We just don't have the infrastructure and the size to do that. But can you imagine now, as we work with all these other organizations, if we can get them to participate with us? Everyone talks collective impact. That's the new buzzword. But if we can get them to participate with us, I've already recruited other corporations who will literally take students, like starting July 10th, we're starting a program with just that population of 18 to 24-year-olds, many coming out of high school, where we're literally going to pay them bring them into YAMTEP. We're gonna take them through 3 weeks of 40-hour training. Please understand, our goal here is also not to give them a skill, it's to teach them how to go to work every day on time.
Soft skills.
Not just soft skills, because we're still gonna be teaching them CNC machining, blueprint reading. We're gonna teach them tape measure, how to build a wall. But the goal is, coming out of high schools never prepare us really to show up for an 8, 9, 10-hour workday. But just think about it. If for 3 straight weeks I can bring Joe into our facility who's coming out of school, or who's never really worked a full-time job before and doesn't have that cadence of getting up early, getting prepared, getting my lunch, getting to work. For 3 straight weeks for 40 hours, if I can take him through that and have him show up every single day, now when he goes to work for Norm, the success rate for Joe is going to be a lot higher. And these are the basic things that at YAMTEP we have the flexibility to do. Obviously, our request to you this year is for $520 grand. Last year, we requested $400 grand, and you guys granted that, so thank you. This year, we're still asking for the same 400 with an additional 120 to buy 2 new 15-passenger vans to add to our fleet, because transportation now is,
How important is transportation, Terrell?
oh my God, it is the #1 issue all over the nation. Now, mind you, when we say all over the nation, we've had the state of Ohio recruit us at YAMTEP to come into Ohio and help them out in Cleveland, Columbus. We've had the state of Michigan. We were literally put in the budget in the state of Ohio. And we're like, guys, I'm an old guy. I'm not doing it. I need to help my own home first. That's a lot of effort. But transportation is the #1 issue. Our goal in 2024 is to transport at least 200 people, not just back and forth to work, but in September, obviously some of your funds will help with this as well. In September, we're working with REOC. We're going to identify 10 single parents that can't get to school every day because of transportation. And our goal, again, there, as we transport these single parents, our goal is to pick them up from their home, drop them off at daycare, take them to school, go back and pick them up from school, pick them up to daycare and take them back home. And we have one simple goal. Can I get 100% attendance in class? If I can get 100% attendance in class, I think the teachers can teach them. If they can teach them, they can graduate. They can graduate, they can get their certificate. If they get their certificate, they can get a job. Whether it's LPN program or dietary or whatever, these are the things where, from my perspective, growing up in this community, I'm saying these are the basic things that, to me, we put far too much emphasis on all these other things, but the basics of just learning. And as we transition from transporting single parents to school, obviously the next step is to transport single parents to work. And think about it. You think about most employers in our region, right? If I can show up to work every day on time for 3 months, 90 straight days, as an employer, we have these odd things we call benefits. And once you can achieve those benefits, you get some vacation time. You get some medical insurance. You get between vacation, medical, dental. You get these things that go along with it. Now, if a person can somehow survive for that period of time, if something happens, the kid gets sick, they need to take a day off, they're not going to get fired because they have vacation time. Right? I mean, as an employer in this region for 31 years, and that's one of the strange things. I mean, I have approximately 140 total employees, and after being in manufacturing and the machining trade for 31 years, these were all the problems I ran into. So I'm not like just creating things. I'm saying, wow, these were major issues for me as an employer and why I can't get employees showing up. And so these were the kinds of things we decided to just kind of implement at YAMTEP. With your help and your support, we definitely appreciate it, but we're doing a number of non-traditional things to try to make it work. I know Anna was mentioning the skilled trades and construction. Yep, they've come to us and said, can you actually create some kind of curriculum in the skilled trades industry? And I said, well, no, you create a curriculum. I'll create the environment. We're not experts in that area. We're manufacturing people.
Tyrone,
Yes.
I think that what I'm hearing you say, which is wonderful, you're creating hope in these individuals. Hope that they can do something that previous, they were lost. They didn't know what direction or
There is a lot of
any
that.
direction.
There is a lot of that. The other thing is no one fails at YAMTEP. And our goal is to kind of figure out, right, we've tied everything into manufacturing and manufacturing skills training, but we place people in jobs outside of manufacturing, right? I mean, think about it. Basic skills are basic skills no matter what industry you're in. We use manufacturing because it's something that's physical, tangible. I can assess your ability to reason. I can assess your ability to qualify and quantify numbers. I can assess those things, so manufacturing makes it a little easier. You know, I can put a tape measure in your hand and teach you what 1/8 of an inch is, right? So that process makes it a little easier from that standpoint.
Tyrone, do you teach them, so you teach them the skill, you teach them, okay, you're gonna be able to work 40 hours, you teach them the discipline, you get them in a rhythm of life. Is there anything so that once they get the paycheck, they get how they handle finances a little bit? It was amazing to me. My children, they would graduate from high school, and none of them knew how to balance a checkbook. And none of them understood really how a credit card worked.
Absolutely.
Other than it's a piece of plastic that you just give it and stuff appears, you know what I mean? So,
Well, we
that
have.
was amazing to me. They graduated from good schools,
Oh,
and they had not,
absolutely.
like, their financial IQ was 0, you know what I mean? So,
But it's a cadence, right? It's also something, if you've never done it before, it's hard to know what it is. It's not that you can't learn it. But yeah, I mean, we partner with Visions Federal Credit Union and
That's
ESL.
great. That's great.
To come in and teach those concepts. Obviously, in our soft skills training, we really work on a
That's
lot
great.
of that. We've also tried to partner with many organizations in the region, and it's amazing. Everyone has a soft skills program. Everyone does. Some are better, some are worse. We tend to focus more on interpersonal skills and soft skills. When I was coming up, it was more about, how do I communicate with you? How do I mean, we had a 7th grade program some time ago that we brought in 7th graders, and one of the things that they were responsible for was we gave them a set of 10 questions. They've got to go to you, Joe, and ask you all the questions, write down every single question, and then they got to have to come back to me and translate exactly what was said and communicate back to me, right? The whole goal there is to try to make them comfortable. You guys know, you guys have all been managers. It's just as important to be able to manage up as it is to manage down. And that whole goal is to try to get people comfortable with just communicating, irregardless of your age, right? And those are some of the things we try to do in this program. So we appreciate you. You'll start hearing a lot more buzz on YAMTEP, not because we're advertising, but obviously with Rochester Works, we are doing a gun violence prevention program with them that we just got awarded a decent amount of grant money with them. ROC 2025, they requested that we put funding in to try to expand and grow. Today, we have well over 60 employer partners that hire from us. We're transporting people today. We're probably over 60, between 60 and 80 people transporting to and from work, Sunday through Saturday, all 3 shifts. We're going to be working with RTS, RGTA, and you guys know Miguel Velasquez. We're going to be working with them and Senator Cooney on, just to say how important transportation is, on coming up with funding as well for a fleet of vehicles as well. That's how extremely vital transportation is. You guys know all the companies coming into our region. Edwards Vacuum is they're here, right? And they're in Batavia stamp site. We're working with them on developing machinists for them. But at the same time, right, we have to develop a transportation plan for them. Who's going to Batavia? So we've got to come up with a vehicle to help support that. They're working also with Buffalo and obviously the areas in Batavia. But, you know, you're talking about hiring 200-300 people very quickly. I mean, that in itself doesn't seem like a lot, but at one time, there's a lot. And Plug Power, you know, the pains they went through hiring people. I think Plug Power has hired probably 30 or 40 from us at Yamtep, and we transport the Plug Power every day. This is a norm now. It's not something we ever projected, you know, 5-6 years ago, but today it's not going away. And if it's not going away, guess what? We might as well address it. And I'll leave you with the final note. Today, and it's the very first time it was a struggle, but today we're literally having employers wanting to participate in funding transportation.
And that's what I was gonna ask you. Have you seen or heard conversations, you mentioned MCC, motorcycle class, to get your permit, to get your motorcycle license, MCC provided that when we saw, this was probably 15 years ago. Is there conversations inside the high schools to, some families might not have the resource of a vehicle, but is there interest and is there chatter about possibly helping to get people their licenses? And
There's always chatter.
yeah, but we
and
need to
the
do
schools are
more,
different.
right?
I mean, for instance, Webster High School, they're one of our participants. They're probably putting in 5 or 6 students into our July 10th training, and those students already have transportation, right? I mean, the economic conditions are a little different, but still, as we're working with them, we're working with Optimax to say, okay, these kids are already here in Webster. Let's try to get you as close to an employer site as we can get you. So you have to add a little bit of intelligence into it. But here's here's the scary thing. The suburban schools, their numbers are staggering. We sat down with Webster back in February. From their senior class, they had over 40 students who said they had no interest in going to college. That's just one school. We sat with Brighton, and Brighton's been a partner of ours for a few years. They had over 30 that said they weren't going to school. Rush Henrietta had over 40. And that's 3 schools. I haven't even touched the city school yet.
So Tyrone, it's really eye-opening, and I applaud you for acknowledging that some of our children, they're not gonna go to college. And if you can get them on a career path, a trade, or in a direction that's gonna provide them the opportunity to take care of themselves, potentially a family, that's great. And what you're doing, you're tilling the soil, you're making it fertile so that seeds that are planted can grow. And I know when Yamtep started back in, back in, you know, in that,
2015, back
in that conference room, and seeing where it's at now, I'm just so pleased that you're not staying put, that you're always looking to the future and being able to adapt and expand as
Well, keep in
necessary.
mind, we're never gonna be competitive with other programs. We're always gonna be sensitive. I always try to explain to people, no matter what the program is, those folks, that's their career, right? And whether it's Rochester Works, Center for Youth, that's how they get funded. I don't get paid from Yamtep. I have private business that takes care of me, so I can kind of be all over and be like, yeah, this is great. But when it's someone's career, you also have to be sensitive and say, this organization could lose their funding, and that's not something we ever want. We don't want an organization to lose their funding, because that means we have to deal with another 100 or 200 people being unemployed in our region. So we always have to be mindful, in my opinion, be mindful of that. That's why we don't charge them, we just kind of collaborate with them, thinking that hopefully the rest of the population and the community will get that same feeling and intent, and we start working together, because there are a lot of great programs in our region. We just don't all know about them. If we can somehow say, hey, Yamtep, if you have over 60 employer partners, Rochester Works, how many do you have? Let's not trip over each other's feet. Let's just consolidate and figure if we can work with you in training. And that's where transportation is so vital. We were just one of the first ones to start saying, hey, let's transport to these companies outside of the bus loop. But just think about it. Today, we transport to companies inside the bus loop. I mean, you guys have heard all these weird schedules. These guys have shifts that are crazy. You can't even create these shifts, these hours, right? They're working 3 days, coming in at 2 in the afternoon till 11 at night, and they're working 3 days a week for 12 hours a day, and all these A, B, C, D, E, F, G schedules. And like, okay, do we really think RTS can send someone over here because your schedule is now starting at 9:20 a.m. and you're the only one in that area starting at that? There's no way they can ever support that. One of the situations that's on the table with RTS is we're working with them saying, hey, listen, we'll work with you and be the intermediary. We'll flex for you so you don't have to. But if I get ridership up to a certain amount, I don't want to hear any crap out of you. If I get up to a certain level, will you take over that route? And if you take it over RTS and it's going well and ridership drops, I'll come back in and pick it up, right? But if you don't try things like that, you'll never fix the system because everyone's just gonna talk about it. So but those are the things that we're doing. We definitely appreciate you guys. Thank you. Our request is on the table. The one thing I will tell you is we will never take advantage of taxpayer dollars. The taxpayer will never lose at the MTEP. They will always get their value and greater. And the day that we're not getting numbers, that's the day it's time for us to stop. The shift is happening where our adult numbers will eventually start to come down, but our high school numbers will go up. And those numbers are there and they're gonna keep rising. And personally, I love it because what all that means is that if you take care of those 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th graders and they never become those 24-year-olds that need a job, we'll ultimately fix the system. But thank you, we definitely appreciate you. Any other questions you guys have?
I was just gonna say, Tyrone, thanks for providing real tangible results
Absolutely.
from the funding that you received from us a year ago, because that's the magic that says this is working.
And they're real.
And
Thank
that
They're
they're
real.
Thank you.
So-
Great job,
Definitely
Kevin.
appreciate it.
Great job.
Thank you.
And I think
Thank you.
the one thing that you're not doing, that you should start off your conversation with, is that you don't get a dime from this, that you're doing it as always as a volunteer. And that, we need to applaud you because volunteering to do that, giving it your own time and your commitment to it is just amazing.
Tyrone,
now-
appreciate your enthusiasm.
So thank you. You hear that on
It's
too?
in fact-
That means you got some shoes to fill.
So is there, I do have an important question.
Yes.
Is there cloning training to continue what you've started?
It's called AI.
Coming from
Well,
you.
what we hoped was, my goal was to create a organization that I didn't have to run. Because in all honesty, it's probably a true fit somewhere else, right? I mean, not just Rochester Works or Urban League, I mean, that's really where the true fit is again, but sometimes when you're not from that industry, someone has to come in with a different perspective and say, okay, this will truly work. And once you show them it works, now it becomes time to kind of transition it off into someone else's responsibility. That's just my opinion. I don't know if we'll ever get there. I hope we do. I hope someone.
You're
will
already
come
hitting
along.
Ohio and you're already hitting other states,
we're not
so.
going there.
But I mean, the message is out there that there is something that's here that works.
Well,
So-
It's the results, right? It's the numbers. I mean, and before I leave this, we had a grant with the state. I wrote the grant, I submitted the grant, and they awarded us the grant. This was probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And in the grant, it just said we had to train someone. But there was no measure at the end other than training. Do you know I fought with the state when I said, well, no, can you add that at a minimum 50% of the people will be employed? The state beat me up for adding something in like that was a true measurement. And I said, nope, and I fought it and fought it and fought it, and they finally added it. And I said, listen, I'm sorry to be such a hard butt, but it wasn't really about me. You added this, I know we can do this, which means now I get to run my big mouth and say, these other contracts, you need to put a real measure in there. No one should get trained and go back home and sit on the couch and eat bonbons. When we've paid them to train, that should never occur. Right? So, but those are kind of the battles that, you'll see me fighting more and more is give us a hard measurement. You using taxpayer dollars. I'm not holding you to perfection, but we've got to hold you to something. We can't just say train someone and send them on their merry way. So that's where we're at. We're looking forward to not just presenting to you guys this time next year, but we're looking forward to you guys coming out and visiting us. Come kick the tires.
We would like that.
Yeah,
For
I mean,
sure.
that's
I'll do that, Tyrone, for sure.
absolutely.
Me and Troy, we're coming over.
Yeah.
I gotta order that hard hat for you now.
I have several hard hats.
And
Okay.
guess what? Hey, as we get more and more teachers and instructors, well, I know you, I mean, retirees like you, Norm, come on, you can come teach us.
Okay, we have to approve the request.
Motion.
It's been moved
Second.
by Troy, seconded by Joe, and this is to approve the execution and delivery of a contract with YAMTEP for a workforce development manufacturing training program in Monroe County in an amount not to exceed $520,000 for 1 year. So we have a first and second. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Tyrone. Good job.
Continued success. to you.
Continued, yes.
Absolutely, my friend. I'll see you soon.
Thank you. So, anything else, Anna?
Dashboard updates, you see on page 80 of your packet. You'll notice that, project activity is not as robust as it perhaps was last year. It's, a sign of the times, and we're continuing to get out there and share information about our programs with interested parties. And of course, our Workforce Development Fund status report will be updated next month to reflect this new contract partnership with YAMTEP.
Okay, great, thank you.
Do we connect YAMTEP with like someone like Li-Cycle?
Yes.
As they get closer to, because it would be nice to just have that circle, where-
Yeah, so you heard them, Tyrone said that they're partnered right now with Plug Power.
Right.
Many of
Right.
their partner employers are businesses that have availed themselves of COMIDA incentives. And so we do make those introductions regularly when we talk to our applicants about workforce development programs. We bring up YAMTEP.
I think maybe we should also, just for consideration, because that is, in my opinion, one of the most sustainable advantages we would have is if we can provide a quality workforce that gets companies to be more interested in coming here. So, and I was really pleased to hear that companies are actually talking about funding them directly. So,
Yeah, that's
that is something I think we should try and see how we can grease those skids.
I remember that he was recruited to do this with his company, Trueform. And we were meeting, late meeting over at City Hall in the conference room, and Jeremy was there, and Del Smith. And he said, I've got so much, I can't do this. But he did. And he did it because he cares about what's going on. And he doesn't get one red cent. He doesn't get anything for that. But he does it because he cares about it. And he's taken some individuals that wouldn't have a chance, and he's turned them around. So I would love to hear a little bit more about those impacts, those people that he's made a difference in their lives, and how that changes. And especially now, as we talk about we need to have people in the workforce, I would love to see them, with BOCES, with MCC, with Edison Tech, and how can they make that more of a lifeline to get these people into jobs where they can basically make a living.
I think the goal would be to, so right now, most of the trades have relationships with BOCES, and to develop an articulation agreement to get somebody that goes through the YAMTEP program to have a direct entry option. That'd be huge, and there it is. We can train. This is a perfect example. You could train all day. You got to put them to work, and once you get done, and that's just where the relationship between COMIDA and a job such as Li-Cycle, where we have another resource to exhaust, is huge.
That's
It's
it. And when you
huge.
see
It's
success
fantastic.
like this, the question comes, how do you scale this? How can we scale it?
When he has 150 students year over year, those numbers were.
Nobody's turning them away.
Look at the kids he turned
And
away.
he's got
Think how many
200.
turned away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Troy, 2 minutes on this morning. Thank you very much for inviting us to
Yeah.
attend the conference.
Yeah, and a little connection with Tyrone and what we heard this morning.
Exactly,
It's,
for sure.
It's not Rochester, it's not just us.
Right, that was the big picture across the country, and
Yeah.
how you can, manage your projects better and hire local labor and make sure that there are apprenticeship programs and they get the training they need to be hired, but it was very informative.
I'm glad you were able to go.
Jay was
yeah.
there also.
That was a fantastic program, and
Yeah.
it's, it provides that bigger picture perspective, and it comes back to what we've talked about here, where if you have skilled people, you have better outcomes on your projects. And the idea that, hey, people with skill make more money, but they help you deliver better results, and that is a win-win. That is really what.
Which ties to the financial results.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that's,
Yeah, and it's not only cost, the biggest thing that I took away from that, Ann, was schedule. If you are taking a look, like, is it Fairlife that's coming in and Li-Cycle, getting them up and running 6 months faster, that's
got
what they
trained
care about.
labor here.
That's
it.
exactly what the kids, what
That-
the kids.
That's it. I mean, they were talking about nuclear power plants that are 3-4 years behind schedule. You know, and you can't measure that money, but you know it's a lot.
That scales out to dollar-wise.
Exactly.
Crazy.
And that's where the level of training also that you have to, we can train in Rochester and you get that journey person card. It can go to Phoenix, Arizona and Ohio and
right,
Texas.
transferable.
And that training isn't just specific to this geographical, it's more universal and that's a big deal. That's huge.
So thank you for that. It's great. Anyone have anything else?
Motion
All
to
right.
adjourn?
A motion to adjourn. Thanks, Red. Is there a second?
Second.
By Joe. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.